16th of June at 6626, and I just want to talk about some of the plants, give you an idea of maintenance so that the HOA doesn't make us rip it out. On either side of the door you've got a shrub called beautyberry that makes beautiful purple berries in the fall, and there's one in the front of the raised bed just to the right of the steps. The plant that you see that's filling in all around here is jewelweed. That's the remedy for poison ivy, and below that a ground cover from the Shenandoah. On the left side as you go out the door, there is, believe it or not, a peony buried down in there under all these ferns. And then the ground cover as you go forward is largely comfrey. That's what these flowers are right here. It has real deep roots, and I put it there because there's a drainage pipe broken under there, and that'll help with some of the runoff. This pot has milkweed and jewelweed and brown-eyed Susan and narrow leaf mountain mint, which is a keystone for pollinators. These are kind of cool, but they're not native. They're crochismia bulbs from Costco. That tall one in front is actually New York ironweed. That's a big purple flower. It's real pretty.
This one?
Uh-huh. And down through here, there's some red flowers that I'll show you are blooming over on the other side. Jacob Klein Monarda. This is peppermint. I let the Afghani neighbors come and pick at their will. And this is the other mountain mint. It's not the narrow leaf. These are my two favorite plants, or three favorite plants. So there's swamp milkweed and New York ironweed, and this is Joe Pye weed. It's a tall, beautiful pink flower. The bird bath is important because really I did this habitat for the insects and the birds, so that should be rinsed out every day. In the spring, you can cut back the two beautyberry. There's one here too. They can be cut back to almost to the ground in the spring, and they'll come back strong. I usually try to leave these stems as long as possible because they provide habitat. The milkweed comes on its own, and it's the only plant for the monarchs to lay their eggs. This is the atri. The tall one is purple coneflower. They're all perennials. They come back every year. There's some sage and strawberries in here, and a dogwood is coming. We're going to lose these holly trees, and there are 3 plants under the holly tree that need to be rescued when it becomes not shady anymore. There's a Japanese painted fern. There's false St. John's wort. It's back there. You can see it. You can see it back there, the false St. John's wort. And Japanese painted fern and tiarella. This tall thing just to your left here is fennel, more mountain mint. And what I do is I cut things back along the path and dig them up. I try to keep grass from growing in there, and that's always a struggle. This is catnip. This is New York or New England aster. It's really beautiful in the fall and a really important plant for the flyover, for the things that are migrating. And this is agastache or anise hyssop, and there's some giant blue hyssop in there. Jacob Klein Monarda is the red one. That's a crochismia that's blooming. This is sumac. Not poison sumac, just sumac. There's a short one there and a tall one here, and if it gets really super tall in the spring, I cut it back so it doesn't, kind of stays in the bed. There's a beautiful ground cover here that I would love to rescue. It's called elephant's ear. It's growing along the edges because it pops out with purple flowers and drops seeds. The full grown plant is about that big. I'll show you one in a minute. American germander, that's the pink thing that's blooming. It's not hyssop, it's germander. The trellis, I'm really excited about that growing. That is crossvine, very good. It's a native. That's native gray stem solidago, gray stem goldenrod. I'm hoping to rescue these, but my back's not cooperating, so they may not get rescued. elephants here looks like when it's grown up. It's a nice slow ground cover and it's pretty tough. So I hope you have a lot of it. Hopefully we'll be able to move some of those babies. That's Acephalus tuberosa, butterfly weed. It's everybody's favorite. And I stuck some strawberry in when we dumped the soil that was up on this stump. I Chelsea chopped this New England aster. So what you want to do the second week in June, before things have buds, cut them by a third, and that keeps them from being so tall that they fall over. It delays flowering slightly, but it gives you a fuller plant.
Okay.
I just use scissors on my pruners. Fennel's going to seed. Strawberries. This is American germander. It'll be real pretty when it blooms. This is New York ironweed. It's going to be purple. And I think this is New York ironweed here too. The tomato cages come in real handy. This is a spotted bergamot, a purple. It's really beautiful. Be careful going down that hill backwards. This is crazy. This is Baltonia asteroides. Turns out it's a native of scree, and I gave it compost, so it just took over. Definitely want to chop that one in the spring, because otherwise it's easily 8 feet tall. They call it snowbank because it has a gazillion white flowers when it blooms late. And these ferns, I love them, ostrich ferns. This is a yellow flower. It's just about done blooming, and it loves drainage.
Okay.
When I moved in here, that pipe wasn't connected, so all that water ran out here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They just really took advantage of that. But they're pretty tough. I'm hoping Leanne comes over and digs these two out there. They like it wet. They're swamp mallow. Big flower. Ostrich fern. River grass. This is river grass.
Okay.
More solidago or goldenrod. My friend Christine came over and helped me cut all of these back off the path.
Okay.
At some point, Vince may take all of these out because they're way too close to the foundation.
Yeah.
I didn't plant them. There's some other perennials in here, and there are some trees and shrubs in here that I want to point out. They're not ready to be trimmed, but I just want you to know they're in there. This one is a slow-growing, interesting form hornbeam tree. This guy right here. Isn't he pretty?
Mm-hmm.
And then those are perennial flowers. I just used tomato cages. Bottle brush buckeye. It's going to form a whole bank all by itself. It'll get 8 feet wide, and it has flowers that are like that tall. Bottle brush. There's a couple other shrubs up here. There's a Lindera benzoin, a spice bush, and there's a Viburnum nudum, possum haw.
Okay.
These azaleas are gorgeous when they bloom. They're pink. I have a pot here. This is a lady fern, and this is a native red bud. These are some more of those evening blooming primrose. This is a dogwood. So most of these trees are from the Soil and Water Plant Conservation District. We're going to take these pots with us. There's a couple of real special plants in here. I haven't gotten around to digging up. I'm hoping nobody does them any harm. There's black cohosh.
This?
Yeah, both of them. This one and that one. And then this is a wild ginger, the little round leaf plant right there. Right there.
Oh, down in there.
Yeah, that's wild ginger.
Okay.
It's really cool. Really cool plant. Okay, I guess we'll walk around the back. There's Vince graciously put in a couple of raised beds back here. But we're going to go all the way to the end and work our way back. My friend Christine brought a carload of plants. So behind all this milkweed and this tritoma are some huge native plants. One is called spiderwort. That's this one. Has a blue flower. It's so pretty after the rain. And back in there in late summer, we probably will get some more of those swamp mallows. This is something I grew from seed that I'm hoping actually turns out to be a bergamot. This is some of the red buds bloomed this year. It takes 4 years. This is a woodland sunflower. I think this is probably a goldenrod. Hello, Mr. Beetlebug. They have their own ecology, this milkweed, and I'm always looking for monarch caterpillars. So the tree in the middle is kind of scrunched in there is serviceberry. It has a white flower in the spring. Right now it's got rust. This is elderberry, canadensis. It's a native. That's the native honeysuckle. You don't have to do anything with those. Here's some bird food, but I can't say exactly what kind it is.
Oh, yeah.
Takes about 9,000 caterpillars to feed one baby bird. So it's really important to plant native plants because that's what the insects and the birds have adapted to here. I put that gate there, and I want to talk to Vince about putting a gate at the top of the path to try to keep kids out. So this is elderberry. This is fireworks, goldenrod. A couple things in there behind there. A couple things back in here. There's a winterberry ilex shrub right there, kind of under the redbud. Yeah, you found it. And then coming forward, there's a marker by the Stokes aster, which is like, it's just drowning in touch-me-nots. This is dogbane. It has this very cool metallic beetle that shows up to eat it. This is a nice flower in a pot where you may or may not bring that pot. It's a tough guy. This is oregano. Autumn glory sedum. More milkweed, or more goldenrod. This is a wonderful plant. It's actually my favorite plant. It definitely needs Chelsea chopping. It's cutleaf coreopsis. It gets about 8 to 12 feet tall. That's why you need to cut it in the early spring. Liatrian thyme. This is sterile, unfortunately. It's not feeding anybody, but it's a Korean viburnum. It has a white flower. This is from the Soil and Water Conservation. I did not cut this one back. So this is called A. fruticosa, or false indigo. You can see how purple the flowers are. There's one across the way that I did cut back, and it's turned into a thicket.
Okay.
Right? And that's a red bud that bloomed. You can see all the seed pods hanging.
Yeah.
Here's some of the Jacob Klein Monarda blooming back there. See the red flower? All right, and then this is buttonbush. Small tree. You see a moth on the buttonbush. That's why they call it buttonbush. It's the shirt I'm wearing. Ta-da! Wildflower of the year. This is mullein. It was an accident. I thought it was one of the flowers that I'll show you in a minute. It looked just like it when it was a baby. Special milkweed here. This is a special milkweed. Swamp milkweed. Okay. And as you can see, there's more Jacob Klein Monarda in there.
Okay. And these don't need any particular maintenance, just to keep them tied up?
This is probably going to have to go.
Okay.
This is a pot of that Smidges nibble on it. Autumn glory sedum. That's fennel. And back here, this is another elderberry that got less sun, so it's blooming later. And this is nice because I can pick the berries. They help your immune system, but you gotta cook them.
Okay.
And then along the edge, there's Monarda and more sundrops. And there's some of these I just planted. When the mullein came up, it looked just like the digitalis with the round leaf there. And I planted some other things in there that are annuals. And then on the other side, you've got, this is all blue powder puff flower. It looks like this when it blooms. It's really pretty, very easy. This came back from last year. It's a tropical. It draws in the hummingbirds. It's hummingbird sage, some people call it.
Okay.
It's in a red pot. And here, look at all, you see all the bumblebees?
Yeah.
They are just loving on, I mean loving on the milkweed. It smells so good. I'm probably in your way.
No, you're fine.
But there's another great big pot back here. And then there's milkweed And that holly tree is going to go later in the year, so that area is all going to be sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we're going to be able to keep it alive or not, but I put some ground cover in there. And this is obedient plant, and it's all along the back of that fence. That whole area back there is this flower. Obedient plant. They call it that because when you bend the stem a certain way, it stays that way. But unfortunately, it's a native of scree, like the Boltonia, and I gave it compost, so it's taken over. I put in some elephant's ears and some New England aster, but I don't know if it'll make it. I wanted something to hold that soil because we dumped a giant pot out that was there. Couldn't take it with us. Okay, and brown-eyed Susan. Another native that's real easy. These are all the jewel weed. I called this hummingbird alley last year because the hummingbirds were just incredibly numerous in here. I dug some of these out. It was really hard work because they were in gravel. This ostrich fern. So these are solar lights that come on at night. And I think that's about all she wrote. This is Rue. More ostrich fern. Might actually, we'll put a New York fern in one of these raised beds. There's 3 of them here. It's a little hard to visualize because there's so much growing here. I want to take that pot with us of the ground cover.
Okay.
Got about 4 different ground covers growing on that hill. When the forester took down that tree, or when he told us we had to have it taken down, he said 55,000 gallons of water are going down that hill. So I got busy and planted as many natives as I could. Now this comfrey gets tall in the spring, and you can just cut it back. And what you cut back makes excellent compost because of those deep roots.
Okay.
And that's about it. We're back at the front of the house.